Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa J. Weiss, and I am the director of the interviewing team for the My Art Matters process that's taking place right now. I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing Paula this morning, and we're going to be talking about why my art matters for her and finding out a little bit more about the art and her artistic expression. Paula, thank you so much for agreeing to speak with me today.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, so let's dive right in.
hmm
When did you first know that art mattered to you?
Really, when I first knew, I would say I was a kid. It was as a kid. And it's funny actually saying that now as an adult, because as a child, I was always wanting to create with my hands. I was very, finding little bits and pieces throughout the house. Like I like to collect things and then just like create something out of them, like glue them, mesh them, paper mache, crafts, like Art Attack was my favorite show. And so as a kid, if I look back, I knew, and it wasn't even a knowing, it was just a being that that's just what I was. And it was just along the way where I forgot. It was just along the growing up process where I forgot that that was me, and that was me when no one was looking. So that was really the, I suppose, most aligned version of me, really. And so now I would say as an adult, it's been just a return back to that remembering. And it's been a couple years that it's just been returning back to that, what I'm also calling it the inner child.
I,
Yeah.
I love that. I love the remembering and the fact
Mm-hmm.
that, from such an early age, you knew, and,
Mm-hmm.
so, and to veer away from it and to come back from that. When did you consider yourself an artist? Like, was there a specific time when you went, this is who I am? Like, when did that happen and how did that happen?
You know what? I would say that it's crazy that it was it's not even probably, it was last year. It was in 2020 when I finally, it's an acknowledgement. That's what it is. It was a process of an acknowledgement to even look at yourself in the mirror and to accept that, wow, I am an artist. Wow, like this is me. This is part of me. This has always been part of me. This creative urge, these, creative energy that I actually believe is part of everyone, but that's a whole other story. Um, and the way I arrived at that realization was actually through the stillness of not having all the distractions per se, right? Because the whole world came to a standstill. And prior to 2020, I left to backpack for 16 months across Europe, and I was a month in Morocco. I was very much on the move. I'm very like movement, the next, the next, the next. And I think a lot of people can really also resonate with that because we're a very fast paced, especially here in Toronto, right? We're very fast paced. It's like, what's next? The next thing, the next project, the next, the next, the next. And the problem with all of that, and even, it's been part of my awakening, I would call it, is that constantly focusing on what's next is number one, taking so much away from the now. And the now is the only thing that's real. That's it. So it was really 2020 for me. And like even leading into this year, because if 2020 was like a peak, then it's now just been like riding this wave of following that and just acting upon these urges, right? And these creative urges that before were a little bit blocked, if I'm being brutally honest. They were just a little bit tossed to the side of, no, that's not me. So I think it's that alignment. It was definitely a process. But it was, yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for it.
And so,
Yeah.
if I heard you correctly, I mean, art has been an important part of your life since you were young,
Yeah.
and then, but it was really only last year that you looked at yourself and said, "I am artist in that."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's amazing, an amazing discovery, and to happen in that year when everything
Sure.
was, sort of shut down. when you think about your life and you think about art and how art has influenced your life, and were there any were there any people that inspired you when it came to your art and the type of art that you do?
Those would be the sounds of Queen West. Just as I'm sure they'll be edited out. Um, you know, right this second, I'm not too sure that I can really point to a specific name, because I find that I get my inspiration through just so many different sources instead of really, there's people that I admire, but I find that I can pick up a book of poetry and become inspired, you know, like even just reading from Rupi Kaur. And if I resonate with something that I read from hers, I will just all of a sudden get all these ideas of something that I want to create around even these feelings that have been brought up just from reading that alone. Or it'll honestly just be from looking at paintings. I find inspiration, I find that I'm attracted very much to like colors and nature, and just finding, like, I'll see the beauty around me, and that itself inspires me. And that's, I think, what also brought me more deeper and deeper into photography, was this realization of just paying attention more to the things around me, and soaking it in, and then having this urge to document it more, but document it through what I was seeing and what I was feeling as like the artist as well. Yeah.
That's perfect, because I was actually going to ask you, you know, what kind of art you create, and so that you said photography.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when as a photographer, do you have a specific style, or are there certain things that you photograph, or is it really just based on what's inspired? Are you a people or places or things
Mm-hmm.
photographer? What really inspires you?
Very much people. I'm very drawn to people. I find people very interesting, but I find interesting the stories that people have to share with me. That's what I'm really drawn to, is hearing what makes people come alive, what, you know, what's going on really in the inner world of the person. And I love pulling that out, and really seeing it portrayed across my camera and across the screen, because the way that I see photography, it's more than just, I always saw it as more than just, you know, like in school, we had photos taken of us, right? And it's like, oh, smile. I never really resonated with, you know, just smile for the photo. I've always wanted to, because one of my core values is very like authenticity, and what could I do to draw out the authenticity of that person and in the story that they want to tell? Because I think, I mean, photography, I just saw it as a beautiful medium for visual storytelling. And I think through photos alone, there's so much impact that you can make in the world based on what you want to show the world. And I think it's actually, for me, and I even know because of, you know, in ways that I've been photographed, I think it's one of the most powerful ways in which you can visualize yourself and decide, okay, how do I want to be seen? Because we all want to be seen, right? That's at the core of us. We all want to be seen in our own unique ways. And one of the reasons I love photography is that it allows for that. But I also love it because I'm very people oriented. And so I love connecting and just, you know, like, I think in a photograph, you can always tell the relationship between the photographer and the model and the person being photographed. So that's why I always love to first get to know the person. And like I said, really get to know their inner world before like creating something together. And that's also why, even on my website, one of the words that I use is transformational photography, because I feel like it's a journey, and it's like in the body. The way I actually see it is, I've been so part of what brought me, I think, further and further into it is because over the years, I really managed to disconnect from my body. And I never put two and two together, even until actually last year, that photography was actually an opportunity to connect to the body, because it was such a in the present, in the now tool for creative expression. And it really gets you, I'm here, like this is who I am right now, and then capturing that. I just think it's beautiful.
Oh, that is absolutely amazing. And
Yeah.
you're so right. You know, I can hardly wait to see
Yeah.
some of your work that you have. And so over the years that you've been a photographer and taking pictures, was there ever a time when you doubted your craft, or you know what you were presenting to yourself and to the world?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that as humans we like grapple with on the day to day, this doubt, of like waking up and thinking, am I good enough? Is this good enough? And then looking at others and thinking to yourself that, oh, they did it better. They know what they're doing. And it's really this alienation that's creating between you and like the other. But I've definitely, while doubt is still there, I think a lot of it, because I've been very, part of my work is inner child work. And so I buy the philosophy that you have to be your own best client when you're doing this type of work. And something I've really realized is those doubts are not mine and they do not belong to me. So I realized whose voices were entering my mind, when that's like parents, maybe religious leaders, society, like who's really coming in and creating all of this sort of like inner chaos, and then you're allowing it because it's a programming, it's sort of like a conditioning over the years. um and that's also why for me and part of my work, I find that the inner child is like connecting to that little version of you. And even I brought up the first thing, right? I was like that little kid, that little version of you who, just was just being. There was no doing, it was just being. And then by being, that's just what I was drawn to and what I was seeing. It was my authenticity. And so for me, every single time I channel that essentially inner child, because they're still in me and in us right now, that's how I work through the doubt. Because I always think when I create and when I whatever I'm doing and I want to do moving forward, I want to make essentially that 3-year-old proud, and then also that 80-year-old proud, but that's another story. Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. And so when you create your photographs and
Yeah.
you're putting them on your website or your social feeds, is there a message? Is there something that you want people to know or to discover or to question when they
Mhm.
look at your art? Like, what is it that you want them to take from away from it?
Mm. I really want them just to feel the magic, because I think, and this is also, so since I was a little kid, I always thought like the magic is real, there's magic, like I was obsessed with fairy tales. And going back to that question of what inspired me, fairy tales actually is one of my biggest sources of inspiration. Just reading fairy tales, seeking out fairy tales, because I have this fascination with these, like the mystical and the mythical and the otherworldly. And so when people look at the photos that I create, these elements are going to shine through because it's what I am very drawn to. And I want it to be sort of like lifting of a veil when people look at it and they sort of see just beyond the scene. And in that, I'm also hoping that, people walk away feeling inspired. They feel the emotions that the person in the photograph is feeling, and they're not always happy. I actually love photographing sadness and anger and everything that makes up the human experience, because for me, again, that's more authentic and that's real. So if people can walk away and it just really stirs that inside of them, I think like job well done.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love the lifting of the veil.
Hmm.
And I love the idea of being seen in all of our different aspects,
Hmm.
right? The happy, the sad, the frustrated, the angry, because that is what creates the wholeness. And I think coming out of a year of being in lockdown, where I think a lot of people have been challenged to come face to face with these other aspects that
Yeah.
we sometimes have ignored. I think that's an amazing thing for you to awaken and to have become aware inside of people as they look at your art.
Hmm. Thank you.
What? Well,
Thank
I
you.
mean, yeah. I mean, this is so refreshing. And so, I see that as that's part of your conversation. So if I heard you correctly, your part of the conversation that you're having with the people that interact with your art is to become aware of and to
Hmm.
maybe relax into not just one aspect of themselves, but the many aspects of themselves.
That's it.
Is that?
That is, yes, that is right. And I hope they just awaken even to the beauty that's around us because there's so much of it. Yeah.
And so if you had to leave the people who are going to watch this interview, leave them with a message about art and infusing art into their life, what do you want to say to them? Like how, uh, if someone had never had taken a camera up and to look at taking pictures differently, what's the message that you'd want to infuse to get them going in this area?
Mm, embrace art. Embrace art. And the reason that I say that is because art is therapy. It's actually one of the best therapies. And in fact, art is a beautiful way for us to channel everything we're feeling into this, creative medium of our choice. Because that can be anything. There's so many sources. That's a beautiful thing about it. It could even be something that maybe doesn't exist yet. And it's allowing yourself, though, to pursue that, allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to really have fun and play. Because I think that's a big part of it is like playing, exploring. And if you're feeling, for instance, angry, which so many of us are on a daily basis, art can actually be a great, maybe like ritual that you use and you create in order to channel that anger and get it out. Maybe buy red paints, buy a canvas, pick up your pen and then write whatever's coming to mind and just like get it out, whatever it might be. Maybe you create something with fire, who knows, like I know because I recently actually burned some like flowers as like part of like something I created where I was like, I'm going to channel something out there and I'm going to photograph burning flowers. um and I would say, what else would I say? In order also to really tap into creativity and to tap into, because I think it exists in all of us. I mentioned that briefly, and that like I think that inner artist exists in all of us in different ways, and everyone has the capacity to create something beautiful. I would say allow yourself to feel everything that needs to be felt, including any anger that's lingering, any sadness, any shame, feeling those feelings. And yeah, just by doing that, we're also embracing every single part of us because we are multidimensional as human beings. And only when we embrace all of that can we start to sort of move past the anger and get into passion. And that's also where like the creativity lies. It's allowing yourself, the thing though with these feelings, especially anger, is it's meant to be, like acted upon, not acted out. So it's sort of finding ways to channel that other than even art, like get it out through maybe movement, whatever it is. And then you'll find that the passion is underneath all of that. And then it allows you this ability to create and run wild.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is so beautiful. And I love your underlying philosophy around art and the
Mm-hmm.
invitation that you are giving to people to as
Mm-hmm.
a way of expressing, of not holding it inside yourself, not holding things inside yourself, but to get it out in a way that becomes an expression of who you are and a way of having others see you, as we had
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, right? To see you. We all want to be seen in all our many different aspects of that. So thank you for that
Of
invitation for
course.
everyone. Is there a particular quote that inspires you or that you use for yourself or that comes up for you that you would want to share with us?
Yeah, I was thinking about this for a while. There's a quote. Let me see if I can remember it. So I'm just like speaking out loud here, not real. Well, I'm always speaking out loud, but let me just see. Not too far away from me, Roy Thompson. There's this burning flame that's just always going. I think it's just like gasoline, you know, and there's a plaque in front of it. And I'm constantly drawn to both that flame and that plaque. And I don't live far away from it. So I'll just walk to it. And I like to read it and reread it to really let it sit. Now, let me see if I can remember it just to say it now, because I have it written somewhere, but I'm not going to go find that piece of paper. So let's see. The quote says, so the flame is called the eternal flame of hope. That's the first line. And then the quote is that it's symbolic of the hopes, aspirations, and triumphal achievements burning within the human spirit. May courage never be extinguished, nor light diminished, nor spirits bound in pursuit of personal excellence. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have goosebumps, like
Yeah.
literally. From that. Oh, wow. What an amazing quote.
I've been going and walking to it and rereading it. There was a little part that was more or less I got it. I got 90% of it. But it's been a nice reminder for me and for everything, because it's, again, that attachment, right? And I think in order to actually, one of the things is in order to let your creativity flow, it's actually that allowing it to flow, because I don't think creativity will come forth if you have this rigid sort of attachment and this like control and this sort of, it has to be this perfect way, it has to be this. And I think that's where the doubt comes in, and that's where we start to sort of like self-sabotage ourselves, because if we just allow it, so we don't need to be the best. What is the best? And I think that's what's holding people back. It's like, they're doing it, like, you know, why should I? It's like, yeah, but no one is doing what you're doing. We all, I think, have a unique blueprint, and we all are our own unique person. And it doesn't have to be, you know, the Michelangelo of whatever and the Picasso. That's not necessary. It's just creating from your heart. And it's, at the end of the day, it's also for you fulfilling, I think. And then when you create from you, others will naturally actually be drawn to that because they feel it. I think that's what makes art so powerful. It's when you just feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. I think that's an amazing way to end this conversation, in bringing up that art is unique to each individual.
That's it.
And, you know, in our willingness to be seen and to express what's there, we become the invitation for others to do that. So once again, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be engaged in conversation with me around why my art matters. And I look forward to actually hearing this again, because I'm sure I'm going to hear more once it's up and on the website. So thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Lisa.